Oh, shit. Oh, looks like Cuz laying down another bomb track. And I'm the locomotive about to steamroll right across it. You could say he put down a bomb track, and I've got the detonator. I know we live in a politically correct climate, but it's time to break down those walls of oppression that keeps you from the free speech. You could say that this track is like an American monument, and I'm Al Qaeda, ready to blow it up. Because Stone Cold don't give a fuck. This is about some oil and water. So, two athletes of this caliber could have been the greatest match ever. Should have been 5-star performance. It would have been by that piece of shit Meltzer. They should have went together like cheese and crackers instead of they went together like oil and water. Two athletes of this caliber. It could have been greatest match ever. It should have been match of the year. It would have been 5-star in the Tokyo Dome. Even I'd agree with Nelson if he said this oil and water is of this caliber. It could have been greatest match of all time. It should have been match of the year. It would have been 5-star in the Tokyo Dome.
Welcome to the O.W.P. This is our wrestling podcast. This is Dave along with Jess.
All right then.
And Cuz.
We're coming for you.
Bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. And now on to our topic today, oil and water. As always, you can reach us via Instagram at O.W.P. 2019, SoundCloud at Our Wrestling Podcast, YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, or just do the easy thing. Download WrestlePost. It's an app at no charge to you. And join us along with other great podcasts of the day. Oil and water? What are we talking about? What's going on, guys?
I have no idea. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Well, shit. Have a good day, everyone.
We were talking about this, and I know oil and water sounds weird, but I'm actually part of a couple groups on Facebook, right? So I'm gonna honestly admit that I stole this idea from Facebook. So someone put a post.
Well, give them a plug. What is it?
What?
Who's talking about it? What
I don't even remember it. I truly don't remember. But they put a post on there. Someone just put a post on there. It just said, "Hey, can you name a match or two wrestlers that were put together that on paper you're like, oh my god, this is going to steal the show. This is going to be the greatest match ever." And then they wrestled, and it just didn't click. It didn't work out. And people were putting a bunch of, their suggestions or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, like that's a really good topic. And then that's when I texted you guys and said, this is what I did on Facebook and this is what I posted. And I think we should call it oil and water. So basically it's that, what I just said, like two wrestlers that you're like, oh my God, so-and-so is going to face so-and-so at the next pay-per-view. That's a classic. It's got to be a classic. And then you watch it and you're like, I'm kind of underwhelmed. I don't know if it's going to, I don't know why that didn't work out that well. It wasn't awful. Oh my God. It was just like, not nearly as good as it should have been, considering the two people involved or the tag teams involved.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one that we're not going to talk about today, I hate to bring it up because you guys will just be dicks about it. But speaking of dicks, I know it's coming, but Hogan Flair was supposed to be the dream match. And I think Vince realized that it wasn't, and he never did it. He did it on house shows. Like, oh, this is terrible. So it never went anywhere until it got to WCW, and you realize there was a reason why they should have never touched, right? That the whole animosity leading up to it was bigger than the match itself, and you could have never overcome it. And on top of that, they just weren't very good together.
And Dave, when did we talk about this?
That's kind of an example.
When did we talk about what episode did we talk about this?
We talked about it in Hogan versus Flair in the archives, right?
There we go.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. So, I'm sorry, I was expecting way more of dickish responses. So
No, for once, he was actually really professional and calm, and I was actually kind of shocked on that, too. I was like, wow.
I'm still baffled by it. It kind of took me by surprise. I apologize in advance, everybody.
Oh, no worries. Yeah.
He left me speechless, which is kind of
hard.
Well,
Dave, you're a piece of shit. So, from now on, Cuz is going to be the host, ladies and gentlemen. It's Cuz's O.W.P. podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Give it a shot, buddy. Absolutely. All right, so let's just jump right in, unless you guys have anything more to add. Cuz you want to add?
No, don't ask him anything.
Water.
See, that's your mistake, right? Oh God, Dave, like
You opened the
whoa! You got really comfortable with Cuz right away, and you just fucking right away.
I know. I want to let him in. I feel like I'm leaving him out, and the minute I let him in,
it's like you've only owned a Ferrari for like
pillow.
Yeah, you've only owned a Ferrari for like 2 hours, and you drive to Cuz's house. And you're like, you want to drive it? No, you don't ever fucking do that. You just
I'm a glutton for punishment. Jess. Yes. I think that's all.
Correct. That is correct.
Yeah. Brother. Anyway. So, first match we're going to talk about in the oil and water segment is, gosh, this should have been way better than what we think, but we're talking about Mr. Perfect and Shawn Michaels for the IC title at SummerSlam of 1993. Jess, this looked like a classic on paper. Fantastic prep for it with the backstage brawl at WrestleMania 9. Perfect, causes Michaels to lose the IC title to Marty Jannetty on Raw. This is fantastic stuff. I mean, it becomes something much bigger in hindsight of where it came into, and we didn't realize at the time, but the match itself should have stood on its own. It obviously didn't do that. Why do you think that is?
I think there are just some oil and water. I think there are just some, even though you can't come up with an explanation as to why something didn't work out, sometimes things just don't work out. It's like, I always, talk to people like when a big football game happens and you have two teams and it's like normally each offense scores like, over 20 points a game, but that particular game, they are scoring, like 10 to 13, or whatever. And people are like, oh, it's defense. I'm like, maybe, but neither one of their defenses was really like standing up before then. It's more of a chess game. It's more of a, did they dance together right? Every sport, even real sports that are not predetermined, you have to engage correctly. It's a matchup it's like, if it's bad, it's like oil and water. If it works, it's like it flows together, and it's like a chess game. And if the pieces aren't put together right and the moves aren't done in the right order, it's a mess. It's a huge mess. And that's kind of like what I equated this topic to. And this match is unfortunately a perfect example, because look at the fucking names: Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig and Shawn fucking Michaels. Two of the most highly regarded wrestlers in the world ever in the United States. And Shawn Michaels being regarded as one of the greatest that ever laced up their boots. And like, it's just, I remember as a fan when I first saw this match, you had the in WrestleMania 9, Mr. Perfect fought Lex Luger and Shawn Michaels fought Tatanka. And afterwards, after those matches were done, they had a backstage brawl between the two. So we're like, oh my God, like they're setting up for a feud with Hennig and Michaels for the IC belt. Fuck yeah.
Safe to say, Bobby Heenan, that the victor of this matchup is going to be the one who does not make the mistakes.
Well, that's it. Neither of them are going to go out there and make a lot of mistakes. It's that one mistake that's going to cost them.
Fantastic.
But that was in April, and then SummerSlam didn't happen until August. So in between time, Marty Jannetty made a surprise comeback, and he beat Shawn Michaels for the IC belt because Hennig walked down to the ring and distracted Michaels, and that's what happened. But then Michaels won it back really quick and all that. So that we're all heading. Then they announced for SummerSlam, Michaels against Hennig for the IC belt. We're like, holy shit, this is going to be fucking awesome. All of us, Dave, Craig, Nathan,
great build up.
Yeah, we're like, fuck, dude, this match is going to fucking, oh God. You talk about,
It'll steal the show,
you talk about Brett versus
WrestleMania 3 all over again.
Yeah, you talk about Bulldog versus Brett. You talk about Brett versus Hennig. This match is going to fucking, here we go. And I remember watching it being so underwhelmed and being like, what the fuck? And then it just ends with a count out because Diesel tripped Kurt Hennig or pulled Kurt Hennig outside of the ring or something like that. I don't remember what he did to him.
Did you see that? Did you see that?
Well, Perfect asked for it. Referee didn't see it, but the referee didn't see it.
I can't believe what we see.
You better believe it. Listen,
the winner of this bout as a result of a countout and still Intercontinental Champion.
And so Hennig, but not even that. Ending, it wasn't just the ending. It was the match itself never clicked. I watched them wrestle and I was like, all right, they're in first gear. All right, they're in first gear. Oh, they're still in first gear.
Never.
Okay, they're still in first gear. And count out. What the fuck? Like that. And then they never did rematches. They never did anything like that. They just kind of didn't do the feud after that. And it was just
obviously someone saw the match and said, yeah, we're not doing that.
Possibly, very possibly.
I mean, I would think that sometimes, like you said, they just don't mesh. And if someone saw that match later on and go,
it's because we look back and we see those names and we're just like, who would tell them that they have a bad match? You got to figure back here. obviously, even back in '93, they were both regarded as great.
Well,
workers.
I'm sure somebody did.
Well, no, you're right. You're totally right. But back here,
I'm sure VKM had no problem.
We look at it in 2019. We say those names, and we're just like, who would tell them that they're having a bad match? But you have to figure this was back in '93, and on top of that, even both in '93, both were pretty high regarded. Even though Michaels wasn't Michaels yet, he was still regarded as like one of the best workers in the industry.
He was still up
and
there.
So was Kurt, and so was Kurt. So it's like, but back then it's like, they were running a business, so they were coming up to them as fucking employees, going, not cutting it. So Dave, you're right. I mean, it was
y'all
just
shit the bed on that one. We're gonna shut this down right now. God, I'm sure they had more stuff coming, but when that match happened, I think everyone's like, "Ooh, that doesn't work."
Yeah,
it doesn't. And I have a theory on that because I want to bring you in on this, and I don't know if it's the right
phrase. I don't know why that phrase makes me kind of chill, but go ahead.
Yeah, it makes you cringe a little bit.
Let me bring you in on this.
Let me throw something at you, right? Weird. Well, we've talked in several episodes in our archives about the two best bumpers, sometimes even over theatrical, and the first ones that come up are Michaels and Perfect. Nobody bumped better. They bumped so well that they both practically broke their backs in the process. Like they would sell. And there's something to be said about Michaels, say, versus, I don't know, The Undertaker twice, where Undertaker's isn't a bumper. He's a big man. And Michaels goes in there with Undertaker and tears the house down, where that match looks on paper, when you look at that, like, how the fuck is that going to work? And it becomes one of the greatest matches of all time, right? Because they are polar opposites of each other. In this case, you have the same wrestler wrestling this. It's almost a mirror image on the tactical style. Because, I mean, do you agree with that? Do you think that's part of the problem? What's your take on this whole thing?
I believe it. I mean, we'll get into it. The next match, I think, is a perfect example. Not as far as bumpers go, but because of what you expected from their past, of their similarities between each other in this other promotion that they were in. Everyone expected on paper, wow, this is going to be amazing. But yeah, when you get two bumpers, I mean, Undertaker and Michaels worked because it was those contrasting styles. It was a bumper versus the big man. What better fucking person to put up against a big man than a great bumper? But when you got two bumpers, they might be going out there trying to outdo each other. And they might be going out there trying to outbump each other. Or
they realize that they can't bump, right? They can't do that because they're both, say, smaller guys, and everything that makes them great.
So what are they going to do? Just run into each
other
and just bump off each other the whole time?
Yeah, and they're not that big to be. Two big men can do that, but two little guys bumping off each other isn't entertaining.
At that time,
right?
they were probably focused too more on. I mean, not to say like that it affected Michaels and Perfect, but they were more focused on we got to build the next big stars, pal, and we need the Lex Express, and Hogan's not here to work, pal. So who cares about those guys? And
it's funny. I know we always end up talking about it, but I talked about Taker versus Shawn. The closest thing to that was on, I can't remember which main event it was. Jess, you can dial it in for me. But Perfect actually wrestled Hogan on a main event, right? Like Saturday night's main event, and that was the only time I ever saw Hogan just totally dominate a match. For the most part, for more than, because Hogan will always get his ass whipped for 20 minutes and come back in the last 3 and hulk up and take care of business. He was throwing Perfect around like he was a rag doll, and the crowd was going nuts. Well,
and I think that's why that's what Perfect was. I think that's why Hulk and Perfect didn't wrestle at WrestleMania 6 because
agreed
because
he tore his ass
when you
apart
see them
event.
in the ring, you're just like, this is it. This is what it's going to be, and we can't. There's no layers to this. We can't book layers upon layers on top of this and make it mean something. And if it's going to main event a pay-per-view or WrestleMania of all things, like it's not going to work. And I think you both you guys nailed it. Like, yeah, it's two bumpers in there, and you look at their names individually and you're like, two of the greatest ever. And even back then they were regarded as two of the best workers ever, or in the business currently. And you're just like, yeah, this should be on paper. And then like you watch them and you're just like, God, like it was like styles just clashing. Even though they were identical styles, they were clashing because they were identical, because they just couldn't, nobody was going to do the offense that needed to make the bumping pay off. It just didn't work out that way. It just sort of, but both guys were like, I do a bunch of bumps. Me too. I do too. Well, who's going to fucking bump us? We are.
Who's not?
What do you mean we are? Both of, I don't know. Like just it's just kind of, it was odd. So when you look at it, and it makes me appreciate Brett more because now you see the difference between that style, the Rick Rude, Kurt Hennig, Shawn Michaels style of bumping, and their offense was suspect. And I don't mean that to be rude, but Brett was kind of mat technician and offense and defense both. He balanced both out. That's why he worked so well with Henning.
Well, that's why.
And he worked so well with Davey Boy.
Yeah.
So you got Davey Boy and Henning. You got Davey Boy and Henning, who are two different talents, and Brett worked well with both of them. And Brett also worked well with Michaels. And so it kind of...
I think that the difference is Brett knows when he has to be the person being bumped and when to bump somebody. He'll look at it and go, "Oh, I'm wrestling Michaels. I have to be the heavy here."
Yeah,
it's pretty.
So
obvious.
Brett is better than
because Michaels is great, but he's not going to change his style for anybody, including Brett. So Brett has to change his style, and that's why Brett is one of the greatest. I don't want to say.
And Dave has said that Brett is better than Sean. Now we can move on. Thank you, Dave.
Thank
you, Dave. Don't think about it. Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
I don't have an argument. I don't have an argument for that.
Thank you.
Especially in hindsight, looking back on it 20 years later. we wanted to shit on that guy, and for years because of what happened and the way he talked and reacted. But goddamn, Brett's right 98% of the fucking time. And he's right more than Vince is.
Correct.
So, moving on.
This next match, though.
Oh, yeah.
We got to talk about it.
Well, not even match. We're talking about matches. We fucking went into a threefold, didn't we, on this? And nothing lived up to the hype of what we thought it was going to be. We're talking about what we thought would be a dream match when they both met up in WWE. It's just, they never clicked. We're talking about AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura, who we all have the utmost respect for. They're phenomenal. Not for, sorry, that's a little bit of a pun there, but AJ is the phenomenal one. But these guys are phenomenal. I love Shinsuke. I love his style. I love his heel work. I actually love what he's doing right now. I don't know, a lot of people are like, well, it's not very good. No, it's the best part of Shinsuke right now. People don't want to give credit because they're pissed at the product, but Shinsuke is doing very well right now. Having a mouthpiece is the best thing they've done for him in a while, but I digress because what we thought was going to happen, we're going to see these excellent round of matches with AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura.
But let me be clear, though. Let me be clear.
Sure.
WWF handicaps people anyway. So I understand that. I understand that. But you saw Shinsuke in NXT, and there was magic there. I was like, dude, Shinsuke's like fucking wow. Like, I don't know what that means. Today's wrestling landscape is so different, so we can't say we are going to see the next Hogan or Austin or Rock or whatever, because it's so different, right? So, like, I'm thinking, like, we're going to see the next what represents today's fans' taste. Let's say it safe like that. So I thought for sure that Shinsuke was going to be the guy. They're going to get a foreign guy over. He's fucking Triple H is laying out the blueprint in NXT. Vince can't fuck this up. Well, he did. He fucking filters Shinsuke even more on the main roster. But at WrestleMania, they do let the guys kind of, fucking go nuts because it's WrestleMania. So you do spots you never normally do. So this is the fucking place. WrestleMania is when these two guys, their handcuffs are going to be off. And here we fucking go for the WWE Championship, WrestleMania 34. And Cuz and I were there live. And,
that's what I wanted to say.
And I remember it wasn't even that late in the evening. It was late in the evening because the fucking WrestleManias now, they go 12 hours to 24 hours. That's how fucking long they are.
Basically.
So it was long, but this wasn't the main event, or even it was a couple matches before, right? Because Brock was the main event. But I mean, it wasn't the main event. So the crowd was getting tired. I'm not gonna lie, they were getting tired after the Ronda Rousey, Kurt Angle versus Triple H and Stephanie match. They got really fatigued, but they were still there for it. Everybody I remember around me was buzzing. Here we go. We saw a great entertainment match in Ronda and Angle against Stephanie and Tripp. But we're gonna get the dream. Here's how WrestleMania pays off. You pay tribute to every type of fan in WrestleMania, right? The entertainment crowd,
here's your
the
mainstream
mainstream crowd. The Undertaker is gonna come back tonight for a second. So the people that are old schools are gonna, I saw Undertaker, it was great. The Rock will come back. He didn't come back that night, but I mean, in general, he'll come back and do something. Austin will come back and do something to appease the old school crowd. And there we go. every fucking.
But
I'm like, this
payoff.
match, AJ and Shinsuke, this is going to appease the New Japan guys, the people who say that WWE can't put on a good wrestling match, the people who are just into just wrestling, today's style. Here we go. And first gear, 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 and AJ pins him. And I'm like, what in the fuck? Like, at live, I was like, what in the fuck is happening right now? Like, how did that happen? And then at the very end, they have Shinsuke awkwardly turn heel by low blowing AJ. Yeah. And I'm like, the way that Jericho did at the end of Michaels and Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 19, but yet that made sense when they did that. Here it's like Michaels was already heel, by the way, or Jericho was already heel in WrestleMania 19, by the way. Here it was face versus face, so you can kind of, as the match was going on, you could blame the lack of crowd response to both guys are liked, but their wrestling should tear the house down, right? They're going to take the handcuffs off. Here we go. And again, like I said, first gear, nothing happens. Shinsuke awkwardly turns heel by low blowing him after he gets pinned clean.
Shinsuke Nakamura! No! Wait a minute! Styles!
Oh no!
Styles clash! Center of the ring! Cover! Simply phenomenal! Here is your winner! And still the WWE Champion! The Phenomenal! Hey!
And then he gets mad and low blows AJ, and I'm like, but AJ just beat you clean in an uneventful match, so we're done. We're dead here. And like Dave said, they had a rematch the next pay-per-view, and they had a third match, and both those matches were a little better than the Mania matches, but not much. Not much, though.
Right home about.
Don't give credit to double.
No, you're right.
Picks,
you're totally right.
Don't even fucking.
You're right.
Honestly, that
you can't say it was better.
You're right.
It's
you're right.
Barely.
You're gonna give me a double dick kick, and you're gonna finish that way. That's what you're gonna give me? No. No, that comes over ego, because one person wants to win, the next one needs to be a draw, and then someone has to go over to balance it out. The fact of the matter is, in this whole situation, you wanted somebody to fucking go over, and it never happened. I don't care who won and who lost. Nobody ever really got over.
Well, this is my problem though with and I got to calm down, because I'm going to talk about today's product. It's such a fucking product of what today's product is, which is shit, right?
50-50
well, not even that. Like, okay,
it kind of is.
The match needed to be good, and it wasn't. Okay. I can somehow, in front of fucking 70,000+ people, me being there live, going to New Orleans, doing the whole thing. Like, okay, I was disappointed by the match, but if the ending pays off, we can make this work. Shinsuke had come in hot off NXT. He was undefeated. I believe he was undefeated. And so he won the Royal Rumble and everything like that. And Shinsuke should have clearly gone over. If in the middle of the match, Shinsuke kept trying to beat AJ and AJ just kept being defiant and kicking out, then I can understand Shinsuke getting pissed, distracting the ref, low blow, turning heel, and then beating AJ. There you go. That's perfect.
Now you got story.
Even if the match didn't pay off, okay, like Dave just said, perfectly worded. Now you got a story. Now I'm going to follow you for the next couple months and see what's up. And Shinsuke's champion, and he's still, you know what I mean? He still has value. Instead, AJ beats him clean in an uneventful match. And then afterwards, the loser low blows him and becomes more of a loser. And that's the WWF definition of a heel. And like, this match, and forget the ending. I know I'm really just hyping on creative right now. This match didn't deliver on the technical standpoint. If it was a tear down the house match and they fucked the ending up, okay, it still might matter, but the match fucking delivered, so I'm excited with it. I remember being in the arena going like, I am so disappointed. I was so looking forward to this match, and they shit on it. Like, they shit on it so bad. It sucked really bad.
Well, that's the question, right? Because let me bring you in again, despite my better judgment, and hey, do you think that if they let the handcuffs off, because this would have been a great match, or do you think this is just an issue with style, and maybe they're too similar, or they can't work together?
I think this is more them fucking not letting them go all out. And honestly, because of how uneventful it was, the low blow at the end made me go, oh, because I was so underwhelmed.
Yeah, the crowd. I remember the crowd actually reacted. The crowd. The crowd was so, you could hear they were disappointed the whole match.
They were deflated.
And at the end, when he did low blow him, they did react and they did pop. But it was like, after they pop, again, like Cuz said, you're in front of 70,000 people, so you're all caught up in the emotion here at WrestleMania. And like the match was so underwhelming, they wanted to pop for anything. So like it was just, it was all bad. And like, yeah, it sucked. Like,
but because they had that pop, they're like,
right.
Yeah, and that's why they continued to dick.
Which is the flaw in WWE creative, which is why they're fucking dumb, because they have their head up their own ass and they fart and they're like, did you hear that? It's like, no, you farted on your own head because your head's up your ass.
Did you hear that pop? No,
you farted on your own head, you stupid shit.
Did you hear that pop, bro?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like I said, Nakamura just churning here awkwardly, and all the matches. I don't even want like Jess's notes here say they're barely better. I don't know if they're better because, like you said, it's funny because
what's better than that?
Okay, now I have
that match was on a scale of 1 to 10 of 5 or 4. What's
at
better,
best, right? And you would think, okay, now we have a clear heel and a clear face, but then they do a double dick kick the next time around. You're like, okay, so who's the heel? It just sets around confusion, which really, when people are confused, they get frustrated, then they get pissed. Trust me, in any line of work where you have a customer is confused, it always leads to anger. And that's what you did. All you did was confuse your fans and go, well, what the fuck? Who's the heel? What happened? And then you just go, oh, fuck! You lose your shit because it was supposed to be so much more. It would be, imagine, I hate going back to it because the original stilling of the show was WrestleMania 3, Macho, Steamboat, right? We all talk about that. Imagine if Macho and Steamboat just did double dick kicks and got counted out at WrestleMania 3.
Well,
could you fucking imagine?
We can only imagine that now. I see what you're trying to get at, but like we can only imagine that now. Imagine that now because they defined stealing the show for a WWF match.
But we all thought.
But at the time, if they did, honestly, we wouldn't have batted an eye, and the whole focus would have been on Hulk and Andre, which is what it was to begin with, and it would have just ended like that. However, Savage and Macho, because they learned how to break the mold and like steal the show, they defined the IC belt, which, as we know, became way more important. But I understand. I totally understand what you're saying. I'm not shitting on your analogy.
Yeah.
But like,
no, I'm with you. You're right. Because we wouldn't have noticed.
People showed up to watch Hulk and Andre. 93,000. The people bought the pay-per-view to watch Hulk and Andre. Steamboat and Savage was a nice surprise. But if they did end with a double dick kick, we wouldn't have batted. It would have been a disappointment to people who were watching that match, knowing what Steamboat and Savage could do. But I mean, we all were there for a different reason.
Yeah. So I guess I'd say, imagine if there was a rematch between Steamboat and Savage, and then there was a double dick kick.
Right.
Maybe. There you go.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
There you go. All right. Well, we got one more. Like I said, this is going to be a short and sweet episode, ladies and germs. God, this sounds so amazing. I love these guys. I love them both. Maybe it's a double heel issue. Wow. There's so much.
No, Flair was the face.
Maybe that's part of it.
Flair was the face.
I get it.
But
I get it.
You're right.
Yeah, come on. I know Flair's the face at this point, but okay, we got Ric Flair, who's the champion at the time, versus Rick Rude for the WCW International title at Fall Brawl 1993. We know this match was originally supposed to be for the NWA Championship, but this is the falling out of NWA at that time.
For the second time. For the second time in 2 years. Like it happened.
Yeah. So they tried to bring it back around, but the NWA is so prestigious, yet throws so many fucking monkey wrenches in history of wrestling, right? And now they're doing NWA Power, which is fantastic, but also so weird and different. It's just so many. that whole title reign is just incredible. But they had to, name it as the big gold belt, and they eventually being, it's called the WCW International title, right? There's a lot of trouble here because if Rick's the face, and Ric Flair's the face and Rude is the heel, I look at Rick Rude, especially at this time, he's a monster. He was definitely, ripped in WWE and things like that. But I think Rude at this time he would destroy anyone. Rick Rude's a legitimate badass.
Say, honestly, I think Rick Rude's WCW career was better than his WWF career.
Yeah.
Because they treated
Absolutely.
Rick Rude when he first came to WCW, they actually let him wrestle and be a good wrestler. And I think that Rick Rude showed that he was that talented. I think the main problem here was kind of similar to what you guys said in the first match with Henning and Sean, was that both guys were comfortable being bumping heels. Rick Rude was like Henning. He did crazy bumps when he would face Sting. Those matches worked because Sting would backdrop him. He would backdrop.
Sting's big enough to do that, by the way.
Sting would backdrop Rude so high, Rude would over-rotate and knee himself in the face when he would land it from the backdrop. I mean, and bust his own nose. It was nuts. Like, Sting was him and Rude were so in tune with each other, and they fucking wrestled so well together that, like, Sting knew I'm the face, and Rude knew I'm the heel, and I'm going to bump like crazy. And you're right, Sting is big enough, but Flair kind of was too in the sense, but Flair wasn't that flashy face, that did the flashy face offense. And so I think, again, on paper, you're like, Ric Flair versus Rick Rude. Even in 93, both guys were like, pretty much, I mean, Flair was a legend, no problem, but even Rude was getting to that point where, like, yeah, that's fucking Rick Rude. Like, are you kidding me right now? And so when I remember, again, being super excited, same year as Sean and Henning, by the way, and I was just like, here we fucking go. And I remember watching the match, first gear, and Rude kind of awkwardly pinned him and won a title that didn't mean anything, and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, this sucks. The match was 30 minutes, and it was just nothing. It was just really both guys kind of doing their signature spots, not really. Both guys trying to wear the other one down with wear-down holds, and it was like this fucking clusterfuck of a 30-minute match between two guys that had no business having a clusterfuck match.
The Nature Boy's got him covered. A new champion. Rudis did it. Rudis defeated Nature Boy Ric Flair for the World Heavyweight title.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner and new World Heavyweight Champion, Ravishing.
Well, at the end of the day, I don't want to blame Rude for a lot of things, but when Rude is a heel, Rude is used to getting his ass whipped for a period of time and then maybe slyly coming out of it and stealing a match, right? He's done that for years. And I think to your point, Jess, he was respected more in WCW, did better work in WCW because in WWF, it was like, hey, we need you to babysit the Warrior for like a year. Can you do that for us?
And then after that, you're going to be in a feud with the Boss Man about you making comments about his mama.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. God. Rick Rude is probably some of the most underutilized talent at large levels until he gets to WCW. But the hard part about Rick is when you come from the land of giants and then you're wrestling Sting, it's easy to get caught up in, oh no, I'm going to bump around, I'm going to do this, I can do. But what people, and maybe even Rick Rude didn't understand, he eventually, especially when he wrestled Warrior for the title and things like that, going back and forth, he got huge. Well, he was a big son of a bitch. Yeah. He should have totally changed his stature.
It's also Rude was never going to be a face. He never could be. They were kind of hinting at that in WCW for a while there, and also. Some guys just are the workers, and some guys will never beat Hogan.
Workers in the business.
They just never will. And like you said, and like you guys both said with Henning and Perfect, it's like you believe the hype because hardcores are going to be like, he's a great worker, he's the man, he should be champion. But then when you put Rude in there with Flair, you have to be able to. Hulk could go in there with anybody. And yes, he might tell them, you have to dumb your shit down to match me. But that's how big Hulk was. Not just size stature, but box office draw. So when you get in there with him, it's like you have to be my heel. Can you be my heel? And that's a big question because Hulk was on a national level where people casuals were following him. So you have to look at Rude, and I love Rude, but you have to look at him and be like, you couldn't be both, could you? Because like the greats can be, and you have to follow that formula. So people who say if people they could have gone with me just as much as they could have gone with Hulk, and I would have worked out just the same. No, you wouldn't have. Orndorff. No, you wouldn't have. Piper. Yeah. No, you wouldn't have. Rude. No, you wouldn't have. Stud. No, you wouldn't have. You guys don't get it. Like Tito. You don't get it. Like you just don't get it. Like And they might have gotten it later, or they just were so protective of their character. They did get it, but they had to keep kayfabe up. It's just like, you don't get it, do you? Like, you might be the most talented person in the universe, but if you're in there with someone that has more appeal than you, but has less talent than you, it would behoove you to lower your standards and match their talent and put them over. That is what business, that's what pro wrestling's all about. That's how you make it work. And unfortunately, Rude versus Flair even though we've seen Flair have successful face runs, like against Terry Funk and all that stuff, and those were great matches, but that was against one opponent because Funk was so good. Flair is good too.
Funk's amazing, yeah.
Flair's good too, and Flair's been a good face, and he's been a good heel. Don't get me wrong, I'm not shitting on Flair. I'm just saying in this case, he wasn't the over-dominant Flair that Sting is, or Hogan is, or somebody like that, to make Rick Rude work. Like, it wasn't that strong on Flair's part. So now you have a face that kind of is wanting to bump and kind of wanting to, you know what I mean? Like, and then you're also in a promotion that is sort of favoring athleticism and not really this. And, it's just, it was an odd oil and water like matchup. It was just really weird.
I do wonder, and Cuz chime in anytime, if the roles were reversed and Flair was the face here, could it have...
No, Flair was the face here.
I'm sorry. If oh no, yeah, what the fuck am I talking about? No, that's the only way.
No, again, maybe you're actually contributing to the whole oil and water thing. It's like, you're right. Yeah, Flair was the face, but maybe you're right. Maybe
a way to make it work.
Maybe their styles. Yeah, like maybe you just can't see it. It shouldn't have been. It's just something that should never have been.
I don't know. I always see that Rude character as a heel though, so I don't know if that would have made much of a difference.
You're right, and I think that ultimately Flair is. I kind of see him as a heel all the time, even though he has had good runs as babyface for sure. But like, it's just kind of like, Flair's always been a heel in my mind.
Yeah, Bret Hart and Rude would be better.
Two heels begging off from each other is not really fun to watch.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Nope. Yeah, two heels. Where's the payoff, and what does the crowd care for it? Yeah, it's interesting.
Even though you might label one the face and one the heel, we kind of know what they both were at heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everyone knows Flair's the heel.
Yeah,
so
it's almost, and you're almost waiting. And if you ever try to make Rick a face, you're just waiting for him to turn back.
Yeah,
I think we're waiting for Seth to turn back, not to get too crazy.
I mean, he pretty much is already.
It's just a matter of fucking time.
You might as well be.
That's well overdue. So. As always, you can reach us via Instagram at O.W.P 2019, SoundCloud at Our Wrestling Podcast, YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, or do the easy thing, download WrestlePost. It's an app at no charge to you, and join us along with other great podcasts of the day. This is Dave, Jess, and Cuz with the O.W.P signing off. Have a good one.